Thank you. Okay, this is our last session of the day. It covers the topic of award management. So this morning, we went through the proposal preparation. We learned about what happens to your proposal during the merit review process, and now you've gotten an award from NSF. We're gonna let you know all of the fun things that you're gonna need to know about to manage that award. So I'm gonna turn it over to our panel of experts here.
All right. Again, my name is Jonathan Braxton, Financial Staff Associate with the Division of Grants and Agreements.
I am Jeff Vieceli. I am the head of the Systems Office in the Division of Institution and Award Support.
I am Shaun Minick, the branch chief for the Cost Analysis and Pre-Award Branch.
And I'm Rochelle Ray with the Division of Institution and Award Support, and I am the branch chief for Resolution and Advanced Monitoring.
Okay, so as Jeremy has mentioned, you've gone through the proposal submission process, you've been through merit review, you've been approved, you're ready to receive your award notice, right? You're done. Unfortunately, that's not the case. There's yet another level. And so types of awards, we all know, assistance awards and other types of awards. We have grants, cooperative agreements, and fellowships. These are governed by our encyclopedia, which everyone knows, the PAPG. All right, everyone knows the PAPG. They have it downloaded, they've highlighted it, they've tabbed it. It's their favorite document, and so they're very much familiar with the PAPG. Okay, in terms of other types of awards, they're dictated by manuals and guidance maintained in our Division of Contract Support. Okay, so we've been through merit review. Now we've arrived to DGA. Why do we need to pay attention to DGA? Why do you need to listen or be concerned with Jonathan? He doesn't have great hair like my colleague Jeff here. Don't worry about the hair. DGA, we have an important role to play. As you will see, we're responsible for the award administration of the majority of NSF assistance awards recommended for support by NSF program offices. We are involved from pre-award through closeout. We conduct a variety of business reviews, financial reviews, administrative reviews. We look at internal controls, policies and procedures, the whole nine. We want to gain a very intimate relationship with our awardees because we will be your partners throughout the life of your award, from pre-award to closeout. It doesn't start once you've been awarded. The fun starts once you receive their funding, and we have to walk you through the process. So we're your partners. We're not here to catch you. We're here to help you. When you're successful, we're successful. Our grants and agreements officers are the backbone of DGA. They have delegated warrant authority to issue awards on behalf of NSF, and their approval constitutes a legal obligation for federal funds for recipients to expend to fulfill the scope of the approved proposal. Our grants and agreement specialists are also responsible for issuing all award amendments and certain post-award prior approvals, for monitoring recipient compliance with award terms and conditions, and for the administration and closeout of these awards. We've all seen this chart presented in a few different ways today. We're now at the DGA review stage. We have 4 branches. Each branch is led by our branch chief. We have team leads for respective divisions, and we have our grants and agreement specialists. 2 outcomes. Everyone here is certainly going to achieve the yes outcome, right? In the event that you don't, if there's a declination, that doesn't mean there's the end. We do have an appeal process, which is affectionately spelled out in our, which document? PAPG, exactly. So it doesn't end there. So we can appeal any declinations. It goes to a committee of individuals who weren't involved with the original decision to award, and they will provide a formal decision as it relates to your appeal. Okay, once the award is awarded, yes, the grants and agreements officer approves it, you receive your award notice. NSF award notice are transmitted via email, and grantees and PIs may also access NSF award notices via research.gov. Terms and conditions are identified in the award notice. General terms and conditions, research terms and conditions, cooperative agreement conditions, all sorts of conditions all around. You want to pay attention to those terms and conditions. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to your partner in DGA, which is going to be your grants and agreements officer. Okay, Once you have your award, you're going about your research. How much engagement or interaction is there with NSF, with DGA? What things can we do? What things do we have to receive prior approval for? I'm just going to cover a few. Under expanded authorities, this gives awardees the ability to proceed with limited amount of actions without prior written approval from the National Science Foundation. So as it relates to revisions of budget and program plans, awardees have the ability to transfer amounts budgeted for indirect costs to absorb increases in direct costs or vice versa. Awardees have the ability to incur project costs up to 90 calendar days pre-award. Awardees have the ability to initiate a one-time extension of the period of performance by up to 12 months. Carry forward of unobligated balances to subsequent budget periods, and to transfer funds among direct cost categories with the caveat of participant support, which we'll speak to in a moment. Rebudgeting authority is generally limited to 10%. This is not an all-including encumbering list, but these are just a few key items. In terms of prior written approval, changes in the scope or the objective of the project or program requires prior written approval. Changing key persons specified in the application or NSF award, disengagement from the project for more than 3 months, or 25% reduction in time devoted to the project by the approved project director or principal investigator. Changes in approved cost sharing or matching provided by the non-federal entity. Additionally, subsequent no-cost extensions or extensions of more than 12 months. To transfer funds budgeted for participant support costs to other categories of expenses, and subawarding, transferring, or contracting out work under an NSF award. Now, to see our full list of the prior approval matrix, you have here a link to our research terms and conditions, Appendix A, our prior approval matrix. We have about 25 various categories in which it lets you know which items require private written approval and which items does not. Now, not everything is about what the grantee is allowed to do without prior written approval and what they must request prior written approval for. There are certain areas in which an institution needs to keep NSF abreast or aware of. We always say transparency is key. One of those items would be conflicts of interest that cannot be satisfactorily managed, reduced, or eliminated in research that proceeds without the imposition of conditions of restrictions when a conflict of interest exists. Again, you can see this in detail within our PAPG. The chapter is listed there. Findings/determination that a PI or co-PI has been found to have violated awardee policies or codes of conduct, statutes, regulations, or executive orders relating to sexual harassment or other forms of harassment or sexual assault. Our PAPG reference is listed there. And these areas are principally concerned with conflicts of interest policies that the institution may maintain and non-discrimination statutes and regulations. All right, before I pass it on to my colleague Jeff, again, we just want to reiterate no cost extensions and the importance of it. This is a hot button item. No cost extensions are to ensure adequate completion of the original scope of work with the funds already made available and not exercised merely for the purpose of using unliquidated balances. And they are not for awards with zero balances. They must be submitted by an authorized organizational representative in research.gov, and that individual must provide supporting reasons for the extension and the revised period of performance. And lastly, the grantee approved no cost extension, which they have the ability to do under expanded authorities, has to be submitted at least 10 days prior to the award end date, and any subsequent NSF approved no cost extensions must be submitted at least 45 days prior to the award end date. And so next we'll hear from our colleague Jeff. Okay, we have a question in the back.
Yes, there's a question. So if my grant has been recommended for funding, does that mean I'll receive it for sure? Do I have to wait for anything? If so, how long do I have to wait to find out?
Yes, there's no assurance. Your partners in DGA will perform their thorough review. Approximately takes about roughly 30 days. We'll look at and assess the business side of things. We aren't research professionals or scientists. We're mostly finance and grants related, so we will be assessing it based on risk and compliance.
Another, will my AOR receive notice of my award, or do I need to forward that information?
Yes, AR received notice of the award. All right, Jeff with the good hair. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I am here to talk about technical reports, project reports as annual and final and public outcomes or project outcomes reports. The awards come, again, as Jonathan already mentioned, they come with terms and conditions. The awards come to you with various things that you all need to do. In terms of the technical project reports, those are something that the PI or co-PIs are responsible for. And you might ask, why is that? Since we make the award to the awardee organization, isn't the awardee organization responsible for those reports? The answer is yes, they are, but they're responsible for those reports via the PI and co-PIs. Because again, they're technical reports. They're the progress of the report. So more than likely, you all who are research administrators don't know that day-to-day operation of what's going on in the lab with that research project. That's why those are coming from the PI and co-PIs. That's also why SROs do not have access to prepare and submit the reports. Because if they did, the program officers would probably get a lot of reports that they would find not sufficient, right? So again, PIs, co-PIs, any co-PI that is active on the award can prepare and submit those project reports. And as you're probably already looking at me and wondering, I'm not going to read the slides to you. I'm telling you additional stuff that may not be in those slides. Okay? So those are the technical progress reports. All of our awards, with very few exceptions, have the technical project reporting requirements. So what you should do is, if you are lucky enough to receive an award from us, is check those report requirements. Research.gov has a wonderful report dashboard that shows all of those report requirements to the PI, to the co-PIs, as well as the authorized people at the SRO, right? So again, research administrators can go out there, and as a best practice, I would personally recommend, if anybody asked me, which they don't, if they asked me, I would tell them that there should probably be someone at the SRO at that level who is responsible for tracking those report requirements and following up with the PIs and co-PIs on those projects, right? Because again, you heard earlier today, if something goes wrong with those project reports and they become overdue, and I'll talk about this later, bad things happen, right? So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. What you're going to see here is the actual language that is in the PAP guide. Again, as Jonathan and everybody else keeps mentioning, that is probably perhaps the second most important document in the federal government. Behind the first one, which was signed just a few blocks from here. So again, read the PAP guide. Gene and the policy office folks do a wonderful job. I was probably 5-6 years ago, maybe a little bit more now, they started including the highlighted section of what changed in the PAP guide. So you didn't have to go through the entire PAP guide saying, what's changed? What's changed? They highlight that for you. So it's really easy to go out there and see what sections have changed. So again, this language is telling you basically what is going on with the requirement. It's also, not only is it in the PAP guide, but it's also a term and condition that's in the award itself. So if you go out and you look at the NSF's version of the terms and conditions, whether it's GC1, whether it be the RTCs, you'll see that the reports are due from an annual project standpoint. They're due at least 90 days prior to the end date of the current budget period. That's a mouthful. What does that actually mean? It means if the NSF sends you a reminder notice at 90 days out, you're already technically not in compliance with the policy, because the policy says at least 90 days prior to. So we start sending out reminder notices at the 90th day. So again, if you're a PI in the room, or if you're, again, the research administrator and you get questions from your PI, they do not have until the end of the actual budget period to submit their project report. It's due at least 90 days prior to the end date. Why is it submitted 90 days prior to the end date? To give the program officers who are here in the room enough time to review it and send it back if they need to, or if there's additional information that's requested. So that's very important. Don't wait until, if you're a PI, don't wait until your award expires or the end date is September 30 and you're supplying your project report on September 28th. And then call the program officer and say, oh my goodness, I submitted my project report. Why didn't I get my continuing grant increment? Why didn't I get a supplement? Why didn't I? Because your report didn't come in time for them to review it and get it approved so that they could issue your increment, so that they could issue a supplement, okay? Let's go on here. And again, talk a little bit about APRs. And again, annual progress report, believe it or not, they're due annually. I know that's sometimes a hard sort of concept to grasp. And the way the NSF calculates that and determines that is we take the start date and the end date of the award, and we figure out the duration of the award, and we divide it by 12. And that's how we come up with how many annual reports you have to provide to the NSF. I will also point out that the policy office a few years ago took the opportunity to make sure that we clarified, and we now call it the final annual progress report, because lots of people were confused about the final progress report. The final progress report is not cumulative. It is for that last 1 year period or whatever that period might be, because we do have some awards that don't actually fit into that nice category of 12 months for all of the reports. We have some that might get a 6-month no-cost extension or something to that effect, so that you have some odd project reports. But again, annual project reports are due at least 90 days prior to the end date of the current budget period. We send out reminder notices. Those reminder notices go to the PI and all the active co-PIs. We also send that overdue notice to the SRO, to the official email address that we have on file at the NSF. So again, we try to help you stay in compliance. I actually had a meeting last week where a program officer approached me and asked me if the NSF could change our policy, and because people weren't complying with it. And of course, the answer to that is because people aren't complying with the policy isn't a reason to change the policy, right? It's a reason to get the PIs to comply with the policy. So again, if you're in the room and you're a PI or a co-PI, again, remember, you don't have until September 30. You have to supply it at least 90 days prior to. So what ends up happening? We get a lot of questions about, well, if I supply the project report at least 90 days prior to the end date of my current budget period, and it's the first year of the project, I'm not reporting on 3 months of the project. That's exactly correct. But you're in compliance with the policy, and you will pick up for those 3 months that you did not technically report on in the subsequent report. And then by the time you supply all of the project reports to the NSF, the final project report, as well as the project outcomes report, you've covered the entire period of performance of the award. Okay? Any questions, concerns, problems? Am I going too fast for anybody? You can still see my hands, right? What else should I cover here? Question in the back.
Yes. Can work be done on an award after the end of the period of performance, but before the project report is due?
There, at that point in time, if the end date has passed, they should not be doing like work. They could finish up the project report, but again, they couldn't actually continue to do research. They should come in and ask for a no-cost extension to then be able to continue any work under the project. Because that end date is actually the date by which, if they started incurring costs after that end date, those costs could be questioned by Shaun and Rochelle and the OIG and other auditors saying, well, the period of performance ended, yet you had these expenses that you then tried to build back to the NSF. So again, it depends on what you're talking. If you're just finishing up the project report, yes. If you're continuing to do research, no. So, let's go on here. I guess we can talk a little bit about consequences.
Wait, Jeff, we have a question off to your left.
Okay.
Hello. I have a question on if there's a question email only on reimbursement, that mechanism, not really the program. Should that email go to someone at your office, research.gov help, or the program officer? If there's just, I'm trying to submit request for payment.
If it is a request for payment, I would probably direct you to our Division of Financial Management because they are the ones that are our payment experts, and Justin is sitting over here, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. But generally, you could reach out to anyone, and they would probably point you to DFM anyway, or try to help you as best they could.
We'll have a session tomorrow at 1:15 as well.
I have a small quick question on the budget of the awarded grant. So say I have a budget of X dollar, and I did assign something for instrumentation, something for students, something for travel. If I have to readjust, same pot of money, but if I have to redistribute my money because of some reason, is it allowed? And if so, how big should it be for me to bring it up to you, or should I just work it with the SRS of my university?
As long as it doesn't affect participant support costs, you may not rebudget participant support costs without prior approval from the grants officer. Okay. And as long as it does not change the scope or the objectives of the award, you may rebudget.
Okay.
Or rearrangements and alterations. Thank you, Jean. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on, some of the other consequences that can happen if you have overdue project reports. You already heard earlier today that we don't just keep the PI responsible for those project reports. The co-PIs are also held responsible. And it's not just for that subject award. So I'm a PI on Award A and I'm a co-PI on Award B. Well, if I'm overdue on that project report on Award A, it will affect Award B as well. And then if there are co-PIs on Award B with me, it can affect those awards. So again, imagine like a cracked windshield, how it spiders and spider. It's the same thing with those project reports. You don't want the project reports to go overdue. You want to supply them. The other thing that you heard several times today is if there are ever any questions or issues, don't wait. Contact the program officers. Contact DGA, the Division of Grants and Agreements. Contact someone at the NSF. Don't let things sit. So again, your PI leaves and didn't supply their project report. Don't wait until the project report becomes overdue to contact us, because that makes things very difficult for us to fix. If you contact us before the project report goes overdue, we can help you with that, and we can make changes and we can get things set up so that nothing bad happens. Okay? As you've heard several people here, we don't, from the NSF standpoint, we don't like to not do things for y'all. It's a partnership. So you all need to let us know when something is going, I don't want to say wrong, but when something happens, don't be afraid to contact us. Contact the program officer, contact DGA. That's why we're here. Feel free to reach out to me or anyone in my office. I often joke that if you know who I am and you've seen my email and any emails that you've been copied on, you've had a problem. When it gets to my level or to like Stephanie Yee, if you see Stephanie's name or even Jean's name or someone, when you see specific names, you've got a problem, right? So, you know, when it's like, who is this person and why are they being CC'd? Yeah, that's us, okay? We try to help and fix the problems and move things along, but we need your help. I often hear, in fact, before I came to the conference, I had someone contact me where the PI left the organization like August 15th, and there was a project report that went overdue on August 31st. And it's sort of like, well, I have to ask the question, how was that PI allowed to leave their organization without someone looking and saying, oh, they're the PI on a project and they've got a project report that's coming due. We either need to get a new PI on that project or we need to make sure that the PI submits that project report before we allow them to leave. I know if I leave the NSF, I can't leave without giving them back my laptop. I can't leave without giving them back my ID badge. I can't leave, you know, for many reasons if they don't, you know, there's a checklist of things. So this is all, as I talked about just briefly, this is sort of a collaborated, coordinated effort between the NSF, the awardee organization, the PI, the co-PIs, the SRO, your HR departments, the individual research labs. Everybody should be working together to make sure that these projects, you know, as a PI, you should want to supply these project reports because that's your opportunity to boast and brag in many cases, right? So like, my project did this. And then as I pointed out at another conference, sometimes projects don't have the intended results, but in many cases, that's as important as having a project that did have the expected results, right? Sometimes you learn more from things that you did wrong than you do from things that you did right, right? So.
There's a question to the left.
Oh, another one over here.
Hi, good afternoon. I just have a quick question with regards to no-cost extensions. And I do want to say to our project officers, I've worked with quite a few over the years, and I can truly say they have definitely been a support. You can email them quickly. They can resolve issues where you don't see 25 people on an email like you mentioned, which is a good thing. But I would say with regards to no cost extension, the project officers that I've worked with have been courteous enough to email me in advance to let me know that you have funding remaining. And if you could submit justification on how those funds would be expended or used out. Does NSF offer that same thing through their project officers?
We don't generally, and the reason is what Jonathan mentioned earlier. It has to do with a no-cost extension should not be just because there are funds remaining.
Okay.
So
but if they
there
give you a
should be-
justification,
Right,
like
it's-
staffing, PIs leaving, that kind of thing, if you can give a strong justification, is there that gray area?
It is based upon the scope. So
Okay.
again, it is, if there is scope remaining, either from the originally approved scope or any submitted and approved changes of scope, and you've not completed the project, it's not, oh, I have $5,000 left, I'd like to. It's, no, I have $5,000 left and I did not do this, right? Do you see the difference?
NSF requirement, that is a federal-wide requirement right out of the administrative
Correct.
guidelines. So it's going to apply for
Okay.
any agency you deal with.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
And you did remind me of one thing that I should mention about no-cost extensions and project reports. A no-cost extension is not like an IRS extension to file. It does not give you more time to supply a project report. It actually inserts another project report for you, right? So, because again, our reports have to cover the entire period of performance of the award. So if I add additional time with the no-cost extension, I've added an additional reporting requirement in most cases, right? Public outcomes or project outcomes reports. Again, they are generally written for the general public. And again, I know I'm not necessarily speaking to the slides. So they are written for the general public. So they should not include a lot of jargon and a lot of technical language. It's more, again, what did I do with this award from a PI standpoint? So it's written for the general public. They are not reviewed by a program officer. They are published verbatim as the PI supplies them. The APRs and FPRs are reviewed and are approved by a program officer. So you may see some, if you're a PI, you may get those back with a program officer asking you to provide additional information. Let's move on here for time's sake. There's been a pilot at the NSF where we are looking at trying to get those project reports in because again, they're very important to us because the NSF needs to know sort of the results of our funding. We're providing you money and we need to know what the results are that you're getting back, good or bad. Right? Because we do provide information to Congress. We do get various requests from other places. And so we need to have something to show people, right? We need to be able to provide those reports. We need to be able to say, look, these are the results we got out of this. So there, again, the project reports are very important. FAPIIS, very quickly, FAPIIS is a very bad thing. What this means is this was a fairly recent requirement that was put on NSF and all of the other federal agencies that make grants. Basically, what ends up happening is FAPIIS is the Federal Awardee Performance and Integrity Information System. That's a mouthful. What is that? It's a bad site. It's a publicly facing website that the NSF must report people to if within 1 year of the end date of your project, you have not supplied a satisfactory project report for the final project report, the final annual. So again, it is based upon the approval of those final reports or annual reports. So it's not just a submission. More questions, or Jean, did you have a?
In case you're looking for them and Google, FAPIIS is now the responsibility qualification report and is now in SAM. Just didn't want people searching for FAPIIS. It's been moved to SAM.
So again, it's for those awardees that the project reports are more than 1 year overdue from the time that the project ended. So far, the NSF has managed not to report anyone to FAPIIS, but that does not mean that we will not, and we do have this requirement. So please, again, I can't say it enough and often enough and sincerely enough, get the project reports in. If there's a problem, contact program officers, contact DGA. Let people at the NSF know so that we can help. The last thing that I will talk about are PI transfers. I'm not going to go into a lot of discussion on PI transfers other than to just remind everyone that the awards are made to the awardee organization and not to the PI or the co-PIs, right? It belongs to, Johns Hopkins. It belongs to the University of Maryland. It belongs to Carnegie Mellon. It belongs to Harvard. It does not belong to the individual PI. So when the PI moves to a new organization, the awardee organization can make the decision to allow that transfer and allow the PI to take that award with them, Or they have other options. They can appoint a new PI. They can terminate the award. And then they can also, there's the ability to work out certain sub-award arrangements. But again, the award is made to the awardee organization. Again, if there are ever questions or issues, contact your program officers or DGA, and don't wait until the last minute. In fact, we often get requests to do a PI transfer 6 months or a year after the PI has moved to the new organization. We would prefer not to see that. They should be coming in sooner than that. And with that, I am done, and I will pass it off to Shaun.
Thank you, Jeff. Hit the button. Unallowable costs. Simple definition. Costs that you should not charge to your award. That is the most simple definition I can think of. The cost analysis and pre-award branch is an advisory financial analysis branch that reviews proposals and provides an opinion on your proposal, and we provide that to DGA, that then will use that recommendation to decide to make the award or not. There are going to be occasions where we review what you've submitted, and for whatever reason, we still have questions. Sometimes those questions, there's an opportunity to answer those questions so that we can try to move forward with all of the amazing projects that you all want to do. Please, please, please be as responsive as possible for any corrections or any questions that we may have, that we may ask you. We would hate for you all to miss the award window or to have a declination or recommend declination sometimes because we haven't heard back from you. I can speak for everyone here and to say that it is our goal, is our desire to help you all create the amazing scientific products, breakthroughs that you propose that you're going to do, in being the financial oversight arm in the pre-award phase for NSF, and also on behalf of the federal government. Please, please, please be as responsive as possible. The call should align with a few key documents, and I'm sorry, Gene and Jeff, the uniform guidance is actually right behind the Constitution in terms of the level of importance. The PAP guide that Gene's team spends a lot of hours on is a reflection of the updates and the work done for the uniform guidance. And I believe that October 1, there will be implementation of the new uniform guidance. So that means that Gene's team will also put in a lot of hours to update the PAP guide for next year. Please stay tuned to that. Some of you all have calls that will follow FAR. Please, please, please follow that. The PAP guide is also being the third most important document. And one other document that, and some of you all have traveled far to get here, are the federal travel regulations. We all like to fly first class, but we all can't charge the award to fly first class. Just a few examples of some unallowable costs. I know that in your proposals, you're gonna propose certain salary, some compensation charges, and at some point, we're gonna wanna take a look at your actuals, right? Are you able to track time and effort? Do you have a time and effort reporting policy in your organization? Does it align with your university policy, if you're a university, or your organization policy? That's one area that we really spend a lot of time looking at, hint, hint. Some of you all are gonna have federally approved fringe and indirect cost rates from your cognizant agency. Please I think that there's a theme of reading your documents. That could be terms and conditions. Any documents that you may receive from another federal agency that approves these rates, just as important, because we're going to look at those approvals and we're going to see if they're being properly applied within your proposal. Unreasonable travel costs, another thing that can potentially be a holdup for you. Hotel rates, we all have the federal travel policies and those, I guess also the per diem rates that you're able to charge to your awards. Are you properly and consistently applying those throughout your proposal? Meals have to be in travel status for meals, right? We all would love to just come to work and we, can have lunch every day and that's just not allowable, okay? Meals, participant support costs that are not adequately documented. This is another hint category that we really take a look at, especially around meals. Entertainment, promotional items that aren't specifically outlined within your award, your terms and conditions. There are a few words that you should all be familiar with in terms of things that do affect your allowability of costs. Is it allowable? First and foremost, can you charge it to the award? Is it reasonable? Just because you can do it, it may not be a reasonable expense. At the end of the day, we are stewards, all of us in some way, of federal dollars and taxpayer dollars. So all the costs, should be reasonable. You all have you should have your internal policies, your statutes, regulations, your grant terms and conditions. By a show of hands, who reads the solicitation before they apply for the award? Every hand isn't up in the room. Every hand is not. I don't see every hand. Is it allocable? Are you able to track, locate, allocate those costs to specific categories? If we come out, and we will come out to see some of you, are we going to be able to trace those expenses back to source documents? Are we going to be able to see what you did with those funds? And lastly, I want to say, are they treated consistently across all of your awards? I know we all love NSF here, but if you have another award from another federal agency, could be a state agency, are you treating those costs consistently? Are you charging a little bit more to the NSF award than you are to other awards or other funding? Conformance. We all have to follow behind federal law, right? There's things that we want to do. The law doesn't allow us to do all the things that we really want to do. Some of you all are also going to be governed by state and local policies. We are surely not asking you to ignore any of those. There are going to be limitations and things that are identified in your terms and conditions that you are not going to be able to do. And I fully believe that even though you all have not all read the solicitation, when the award comes out, you're surely reading those terms and conditions, right? No? Not everybody? Are you documenting your activities on the award? You all have staff, folks working on the award, maybe in the indirect or direct capacity. Are you tracking those hours, those times? Right? We're going to come out and we're going to want to take a look at that. Purchase orders. As Jeff mentioned, things have to be done within a certain time frame, right? And it is our goal to see all of your allowable expenses reimbursed. And part of that's going to be within the period of performance. How is your internal controls around invoices? There's certain things we're going to want to take a look at and going to want to see, and some of that is going to be your internal control policies. What are your procurement policies? What are your travel policies? These should be something that are organizational wide, and these should be something that you consistently apply across all federal funding. Now, there are going to be certain things that will make a cost automatically unallowable. No matter how much you want to argue or how speak against it, alcoholic beverages are going to always be unallowable. And I know sometimes there's some, alumni activities, there's some fundraising activities, but you want to just be mindful of the areas of the cost that you should never charge the federal awards. Bad debt, things that are reserved from fines or penalties, also shouldn't be covered by the award. Now, there are going to be some things that, depending on what your award is and what your award allows, that you may be able to, there may be a prior approval aspect to the award. I know that some, PR costs may be allowable under certain instances under the award. I think conferences is one of the other areas where if you want to rent facilities, cost of meals and refreshments and those things, there may be a prior approval aspect to that as well. I want to stress this, continuously. If you have a question about if it's allowable or not, please reach out to your program officer or reach out to DGA for clarification on that award. I would rather you not assume it's allowable because we want to catch it on the front end as opposed to on the back end when we have to unfortunately come in and say that you can't charge this to the award, you have to eat the cost yourselves. There are going to be certain things that you're going to need prior written approval for. I'm not sure how many of you are going to be hoping to be new first-time awardees with NSF. Okay, good amount. Well, welcome. There are going to be certain things that you're going to have one prior approval for. So as early as possible, if you have those questions, once again, reach out to your program officer or DGA representative. Unbudgeted sub-awards or changes of PI or co-PI. I think Jeff mentioned some of that as well. Unbudgeted sub-awards is another thing that we're going to take a look at. Ideally, when you submit your proposals, you have a good idea of what you want to do and oftentimes who you want to involve in the overall process. If there's a certain change, just reach out. I've seen countless times where we've had to deny certain costs because there was no communication and no contact made.
Let me make a plug, Shaun. I want to just kind of tag on to the back of that particular item. I'm in the post-award branch, and we conduct oversight. One of those oversight activities is audit resolution. And the example that Jeff mentioned earlier about when you have a PI on an award and that PI wants to leave the university has options. They can, transfer the award with the PI. They can enter into a subaward with the new entity so that the PI going to the new entity can still run that award. Please remember, and please have a policy and procedure to ensure that that subaward takes place and is entered into before the PI leaves, goes to the new university and starts collecting salary. And then there's some hodgepodge mechanism where you guys are paying the other university, but there's no subaward. That is going to be a finding by the OIG under that award. And we've seen that quite a bit. I'm hoping that people are catching on as we resolve this particular finding and not, they're making sure that there are policies and procedures and that it's happening in advance. But if you don't do that, it will be a finding. So please pay attention to that. And if you haven't seen it, we have a web page that I'll go into on Wednesday where you can go and look at the results of some OIG audits where we've had that finding. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you. Entertainment. I think that in the entertainment, the word naturally kind of gives us the notion that it may or may not be automatically unallowable expense. If that entertainment expense is necessary to accomplish the objectives, there's also ways that that you can include that into your budget and justify a budget budget worksheet. That's an area where I would say get some clarification on what you're proposing that you want to do, and if it constitutes an allowable cost or not. I think that kind of just going to Top Golf or just kind of going to an amusement park just for like an employee morale or or an employee engagement kind of session probably won't be allowable. So there are going to be certain cost categories that there may be some gray area to it. Just please err on the side of caution and reach out and ask the question. Meals and coffee breaks is another one that I've kind of seen in some of the proposals on some of the budgets that if you wanted to charge meals or breaks, coffee breaks for regular office meetings, things that aren't necessary for the award itself, those are definitely unallowable. If you want to bring everyone in, on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, donuts, coffee, please don't put that in the award. We all like donuts and coffee, but we can't charge it ourselves either. So we have to spread the love to you all. Fringe benefits allowed us a direct cost in proportion to the salary charged to the grant. To the extent that such payments are made under formally established and consistently applied organizational policies.
No, have policies and procedures for how you document how you develop your fringe benefits. In some cases, you may work with your cognizant agency, but you need to have that information documented because, once again, if the IG comes out and they see fringe benefits that look a bit too cushy or generous, they're going to ask questions, and if you don't have that information, they're going to question the cost.
Thank you, Rochelle. There's some links here to the resources that you can use. I know that we're moving into a paperless environment, but I still print out these documents and kind of keep them handy as I make notes, and I use sticky pads, sticky notes. So the uniform guidance, I mean, you can print it out before October 1st. I might want to wait since there's a new one coming out. It's a pretty voluminous document. So please keep that handy. You have the FAR, also the PAPG. You might want to wait to print that one out too, the new one, because it's going to be coming sometime next year, I believe.
No, it just went into effect May 20th.
May 20th, okay.
Print out 24-1.
All right, so allocate for some more paper and print out the current one and the next one coming out. I'm not sure if the link at the bottom, the DS2s, will they get access to that link at the bottom? Okay. DS does a really good job of providing those training tools and resources, and that's especially important for some of the new prospective awardees that we have coming on board. Please, go to the NSF website. It's a wealth of information there. Kind of keep it handy and just kind of keep in mind that, our goal, or role is to provide oversight in the pre-award phase, but we all want to see your project succeed. And these kind of tools are going to, help you avoid those pitfalls or help you to, kind of continue the work that you do. Thank you, and I will pass it to my colleague, Rochelle, now.
Thanks, Shaun. All right, so I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to plug my session on Wednesday at 10:30, where we will talk about cost allowability and oversight. So I won't go into depth, and if I start going, somebody kick me. But we just want to give you all just a few ways that you can ensure that your project is successful. And again, it can't just be technically successful and, you do great science. You have to comply with the financial and administrative awards, terms, and conditions. And so anything that you are going to do, if you don't do anything else, which you should do plenty, as Shaun mentioned, have written internal controls over every budget category. When you're preparing your proposal, use that 5 pages. Is it still 5 pages, Jean? 5 pages of budget justification. Use every inch of it, because we really want to understand if you want your proposal, once it's recommended for an award, even though it's not guaranteed that you'll get the award, you want all the information in there so that Shaun's team can pick up that proposal, or the grants officer can pick up that proposal, look at the budget, and understand, looking at the award summary and what you proposed as the scope and objectives of the award, to match to the budget. And if we see anything that's not really explained, if we see that you're going to have, students over the summer and you want to have T-shirts and tote bags and take them to, some roller coaster park or something, and you don't add the scientific reasoning behind that gets to that scope or objective that you've proposed, that's going to slow down the process for you. So to make things go smoothly, make sure that every cost that is in that budget that is not self-explanatory is fully fleshed out in the budget justification. Does anybody have any questions about keys to success? And we'll go into it more on Wednesday. Okay. All right, so these are just more of the keys to success. Just adhere to them. And if, again, as we've mentioned, ask early, ask often. That is DGA's motto, but I heard a program officer say it today, and I was pretty psyched about that. Because I've not heard the program officer say that before. So BFA's mantra is ask early, ask often. Please do that. We are here to help you. We are here to help you be successful. Whether it's pre-award, post-award, proposal submission, we are here to provide business assistance to entities that are submitting proposals so that you all can be successful in getting through. So one of the things that I did hear earlier, and I'm going to try to speak to this here, when you have questions about the allowability of costs, or should I charge this particular, or should I put this on the proposal, who should be the first stop that you go to? Who's the closest person to you that you can go to and ask the question? Anyone? Nobody knows?
It's on the page.
Yes. Yes. Ask your sponsored research office. That's what they are there for. We've worked with many research administrations at universities, colleges, nonprofits. That's what those folks are there for. Please use them. And then if you ask them the question and they don't have the answer, and they say, hey, why don't you reach out to your grants officer? Absolutely reach out to your grants officer. You can reach out to Shaun and I. We can, get information for you. But your first stop, honestly, should be your sponsored research administrators.
I thought it was PAP Guide.
Actually, it should be the terms and conditions. So yes, just, use all of your resources, but start at the beginning of that process. And as I just mentioned, just ask early, ask often. When you're looking for payment information, as Justin Poe mentioned, you want to contact his group, the Division of Financial Management. Please, just take these, print these out when you get home, and share them across, your organization. It really is good information, and I promise I will go into more depth on Wednesday for you all. So there it is again, our mantra, ask early, ask often. So where are the questions? Do we have questions online? Yes, Sam. Oh,
I have one regarding travel reporting, where it says we're supposed to put the purpose of a trip. How detailed should that description be? Because I get conference or collaboration, which seems vague.
it should be detailed enough to make sure that the program officer, the reviewers, the panelists are going to understand what the purpose of that travel is.
Okay.
Does that help?
Because if you just say conference in Hawaii, that might not be enough.
Well, that's what I mean. It just says conference. Like,
Yeah.
do I have to say what kind of conference it is? They'll tell me the grant.
Yeah, what is the
And they'll
purpose?
say conference, but I don't know what
Yeah.
the
What's
the
conference was about.
Right, what's
in
the
connection
purpose?
with that?
And how is it connected to that
Okay.
proposal and the objectives that they're going to accomplish under that proposal?
That's the missing piece.
So ideally, think about it like this: you want to write a proposal that someone that does not know what you're doing can pick it up and follow what you're doing. That kind of lay it out that way. We're not asking you to kind of itemize it down to the smallest particle possible, but it should kind of provide an outline for what you propose to do on the award.
Okay, thanks.
Samantha, you want to take that one? Which one?
Okay, I'll take it. I have an approved negotiated indirect cost rate, and the program has an increase in indirect costs. Is it still allowable to transfer budget amounts to absorb the additional costs, ultimately increasing the budgeted indirect cost rate?
So their indirect cost rate went up during the period of performance.
Correct.
And they want to cover that by taking funds from direct costs and applying them to the indirects. They can do that. Sure, the PI might be a little upset with them, but good luck. Yes.
I have a comment and a question, and it's about the reporting. So I understand that why you want the PI to be only responsible for these reports, they're technical reports, but in those reports, they're reporting on personnel effort. And we found, I work as I'm a research administrator at the college level, and so we have found that our PIs a lot of them don't really understand effort or how it works or what they're reporting, and when we've done sort of our reviews, it doesn't match at all the certified effort reports, and so they were going back and forth. And anyway, so I'm just, I would just ask for you to help us to help them, that maybe if you put in the requirement that it comes through the AOR office, it would help us to check their work before they reported incorrect information to NSF.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you all have an internal control that says that piece goes to the central administration office?
We don't. No, I know. We're starting. I know. But so we're starting because NIH, their RPPRs all go through the AOR, and so we kind of found that we had a PI reporting 12 months for grad student on his NIH grant, and the same grad student had 12 months on his NSF grant, and we were like, okay. Anyway, we're working on it. And my question is, so for those budget periods on those reports, so I just want to make sure I understand. So for the first annual report, it's going to be 1 year minus 90 days, so it's basically a 9-month report, and then subsequent reports will be 15 months, or 1 year plus 90 days.
Again, it is a rolling sort of, the first report would be for the 9 months.
Okay.
The second report would be for 12 months, but it's only it will cover the additional 3 months that were not covered originally. So it kind of,
I see.
Floats.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
kind
those
of
first
floats.
9 months, but then it's 12 months.
correct.
Got
And
it.
then they would
And
catch
then at
up on
the end-
everything at that final annual report.
Okay, great.
And to go back to your question about the effort reports and the project reports,
Yeah.
a good, maybe a good stick for the PIs to do that and help you guys like reconcile those numbers is that the IG looks at that stuff.
Right.
Okay.
So if they see something on the budget or something in the actuals, but there's something different in the project report,
Yeah.
they'll ask some questions. So
Okay.
it's a good way to
we-
avoid it.
we try to make those threats, and some of them just don't care. But we're working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a question to the left.
Hi, good afternoon. There's so much guidance with the participant support cost. Prior approvals needed to move out of it. It's not in the indirect cost base. We need a special sub-account in our general ledger. Could you tell me a little bit about, or share with me the history why this budget category is handled with such care?
Which category is that?
Participant support costs.
Oh, you want it, Jean, or you want it? She moved first.
She's ready.
Because we're finding too many bad things in participant support costs. And I could go on for a long time on this. And because many times, that's exactly why you got that award, was because you had a certain number of participants that you said were going to be supported. And so it went through the review process, and reviewers said, that's amazing. That's exactly getting that many school teachers to this particular event, getting this many undergraduates trained, all kinds of things, and then having those costs be moved out without prior approval. That's what you got the award for in many cases. But it also, Rochelle can tell you, and unfortunately our IG, it continues to be an area where issues are consistently found. So that it just really, we are trying to save you from yourselves by taking it by, I'm not saying your particular institution, sorry about that. But that is really, there are lots of reasons, but we're seeing another area of particular concern is you can't move money out of participant support. There's an other category on participant support, really bad. The stuff that people were putting in were just, you're just like, no, don't. So be very careful, heavy documentation of what's in that other category, and you can't move anything into it either without prior NSF approval. So just wanted to make those points. The other point is, I want to go back to this other part about project reports.
Thank you.
Be careful what you ask for. No, I'm not being flip here, because what a project report here is supposed to be is a technical communication between a PI and their program officer. We worked very closely with the Council on Governmental Relations, which represents hundreds of institutions. All it is do you have a person, who are the participants in the, it's not supposed to be effort reporting at all, not even close. It's just to give the program officer an idea of who worked a person month or more on that project, what was their role on that project, and then that gives them a basic information of what they said they were going to do. Are they doing it? If they said there were going to be 10 graduate students who work a person month or more, are there 2? And if there's only 2, why are there 2? And there may be very good reasons, maybe outside the hiring process of, and all your graduate students were taken, et cetera. So this was never intended to be ours match up to yours. And this also isn't a flip comment. We are not the NIH. We're the U.S. National Science Foundation. So I'll just...
Can I ask question about participation membership fee? So it says in general it's not allowed, but if it benefits a project, for example, specifically in my area, by paying $250 membership fee, it can save me up to $4,000 on conference registration and publication fees. So it will benefit my own projects, but just paying $250, let's say, is still not allowed?
Generally, no. But if you believe and you're preparing a proposal budget and you put it there, use those budget justification pages to explain it, and it will be reviewed, and questions may be asked before an award would be made, and a decision would have to be made at that time.
So it's not a hypothetical situation, it is real. So it lowers conference registration fee from $1,000 to $500, but just paying $100 membership fee.
Yeah, so as Rochelle mentioned, is a justification aspect to that, but you want to look at from this aspect, is that cost a necessity for this project to be completed? Like start with that, and I do understand with your point, right? It's a fiscal point, right? I get that. It doesn't help to if you want to include it in there. Justification is super important for that. Write out what you just said hypothetically. Write out how what you just said, but just keep in mind that the cost should be necessary for the completion of the project.
And it also brings into question possibly allocation of costs. So if that amount that you want to pay is for a 5-year benefit, but your award is 2 or 3 years long, and the IG audits, they're going to ask you, why are you charging that additional amount? Why didn't you allocate it? And, kind of pare down the cost to fit that particular performance period.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question about person month. Is it like computed based on just number of hours? Like, so in a year you have 100 hours and you work for 10 hours, so you work 1/10 of the year. Is that how person month is computed? And is it same for all organization, or it can vary across organization?
It depends on how your institution determines it to be, the calendar year. So we can't, and it should be, at the end of the day, a person can only work up to 100% of any year, right? So if you're, some organizations are 9-month institutions, or some people on 9-month appointments, you determine it that way. Yeah. And in accordance with your policies and procedures, and it should be documented in your employee agreements.
Yeah, we while we do follow the federal regulations and our PAP guide, your own internal policies also play a role and factor in there. So it's really, your policies, and then are you consistently applying those policies across? So if you have a valid justification, or that's your time window, then that's your time window.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's call it a day and thank the panel here.